Welcome to the Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is playoff football time. We have waited through the regular season, the longest we've had, right? This is the longest it's ever been. And now we're in playoff mode. Tyson and I started the podcast. Next thing you know, the Eagles get hot. Ladies and gentlemen, we have avoided all the jinxes. We knocked on all the wood that we could to get rid of any of the bad stuff that's going on. And now we are here. Now the Philadelphia Eagles are facing the Green Bay Packers at the Link. Tyson, are you pumped up? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm fired up, dude. I hate the Packers. I love the Birds. So this is a good one. This is the better franchise in the NFL getting to face off. Roger Goodell is so pumped that this is the matchup that they get. And ladies and gentlemen, don't let Brad fool you. He just wants a statue next to Doug.
That's what I'm trying to get. Peterson and I, we don't see eye to eye all the time. I mean, look, he just got canned from the Jags. I don't want to take a pot shot on the way out, but maybe it was a little bit more than just Doug Peterson and the magic that happened that season. I'll just say that. But regardless, Tyson, for the fans out there getting ready for this game, not listening to me bloviate over my old Doug Peterson takes, this is what we have. We're going to preview the game. We're going to look at the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles, how they match up against the Packers defense. Then we'll flip it. We're going to look how the Packers offense matches up against the Eagles defense. Then we give our predictions, and then we're going to give a bold prediction. Now, I think if we hit one in the playoffs, we need like a 10-time multiplier or something because things get crazy in the playoffs. We know that. But that's what we got on store, Tyson.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll, man.
So, Packers coming in, they could have avoided the Eagles, right? Like if the Bears didn't kick that field goal, look, the Commanders are going to lose. All of a sudden, Cairo Santos goes down. Caleb Williams, vanquishes the Bears demons against the Packers with a game-winning drive, and it's just a hilarious sequence all around because now the Packers probably get a worse matchup, and the Bears get a worse draft pick. So it's hilarious NFC North stuff here. But this is the matchup we have. Christian Watson, torn ACL, potentially more damage done in his knee. He's out. Deep threat gone. Jalen Hurts practiced today. We were recording on Wednesday. Still in concussion protocol, but that was the first hurdle to clear. Jordan Love had the numbness issue. All signs point to him going. So that's where we're at in the injury front on the big news there. Tyson, how are you feeling about this game? I know you last time we talked, you said you were confident. Are you still feeling confident as we get closer and closer to kick?
Yeah, and you keep cutting that sentence off halfway through. I'm confident, and I'm nervous that I'm confident. This is not a negative feeling or a Philadelphia sports fan feeling. I've been confident exactly one time in my Eagles life as a fan. That was the NFC Championship in Minnesota Vikings. So maybe that's a good sign. I need to approach every game that way. But I think that Philadelphia, this is a really hard draw. Obviously, the Packers are the best 7 seeds I've seen since the expanded wild card, the Super Wild Card weekend, as they call it, but at the same time, like the Eagles, they've been rolling. It just doesn't feel, like Jalen Hurts has been out for so long, right? With the way they beat, like they down, and that feels awesome. The Tanner Keys ball is no, that's the story. It's a tough quarterback to go down and miss essentially 3 big games here, and then having to come back against your big back is pretty good. All the numbers, you're good people will see all that shit out and you're really coordinator. We do have a little bit when we won. I want to call it a little bit. If they're going off and you go different teams and they were winning one at week 1, and all they are. So with this Green Bay, so you can take a little bit. You can't look at that. We did well, and now one again.
Tyson, I'm hoping the audience heard you. I think we've had some audio difficulties here. I don't know if it's on my end or not. So I'm hoping that everybody kind of understood what you were saying. I was trying to read your lips, so I don't want to blow up your spot if everything sounds good or not. But we talked about this, so I kind of know what you're saying, and just kind of wrap everything up for pull everything together. I think this is an interesting matchup from my point of view. We look at things, everybody kind of like the talking heads. Matt LaFleur is a better coach than Nick Sirianni. And whether that's the case or not, I mean, Nick Sirianni's won a lot of games in this league, and that's hard to do. And people are like poo-pooing it, like, oh, he just wins games. I don't know how good he is. We get like 8 coaches a year fired because they don't win enough games. Like, I don't think that should be the barometer. Oh, he just wins games. Like, that's what you judge your success on or not. But I do think that this does prevent an interesting matchup for can Matt LaFleur, really good offensive mind, figure out a way to beat this defense that has really been, for the most part of the season, unbeatable. Vic Fangio's done an incredible job on that side of the football. Again, we'll dive into that a little bit more, but those are some of the matchups I'm eyeing And then secondly, can Jalen Hurts take care of the football? Like coming back from concussion protocol, is he rusty? Is that a needed time off? I know he's recovering from a brain injury, but was that allowing his body to heal and all that good stuff? And so those are the two things on my end as we get into this matchup.
Yeah, and the microphone is showing that I'm speaking, so if you can't hear me, I apologize. Greinberg will have to re-record this. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, like Jalen Hurts had a broken finger last time we saw him, but today at practice the splint is at least smaller, if not all the way gone. I saw one video. I don't know. I haven't read a ton of reports there, but you mentioned keeping the ball and not turning the ball over. That was a huge thing in Week 1. Jalen starts the game. They go down the middle of the field. He tries to find Devontae Smith up the seam and intercepted. Xavier McKinney runs across the field. That's what this Packers defense wants to do. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to be cognizant of that because they are really good at taking the football away and they're really good at creating expected points off of those takeaways. But when teams don't turn the ball over, this defense goes from like 6th in the league to 17th as far as DVOA goes. And that's something Philadelphia is going to definitely want to take advantage of. And then, Brad, we keep talking about Jalen Hurts missing time, and I'm nervous about it. But I was reminded today that in 2022, he missed the last couple games of the season with a shoulder injury, and all of a sudden he was nails in that playoff run, and he was awesome in the Super Bowl. So fingers crossed out there for all Eagles fans. That's the version that we get showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the offense right now because you kind of highlighted it. And we're itching to kind of jump at the bits here. So the Eagles offensively, Tyson, there were a lot of question marks early on, right? Like, oh, this offense is not quite clicking under Kellen Moore. The Saquon Barkley thing's awesome, but why does this passing game suck? And as we end the season, they are first in EPA per play. This is from Sumer Sports, 0.1. That is better than the Cincinnati Bengals, who has a high-flying offense. Everybody's favorite 49ers team. The Eagles finished better than them, better than the Chiefs, who finished 11th. Better than the Rams, who have a ton of weapons, better than the Vikings, who are high flying at different times this year. So this Eagles offense is really good. Now, facing the Packers, this has been a defense, as you kind of highlighted, they've been very productive in an EPA basis. I mean, they're 4th in the league when it comes to that aspect. And a lot of that has to do with their ability to defend the pass, negative 0.06 EPA per play in those scenarios. But also, Tyson, they've done a good job of stopping the run, 8th in EPA per play and stopping the run. So I think this is going to be a challenge for the Eagles, right? Like this is the unit, if we're kind of looking at everything, that can give them some problems, especially since they're have an ability to take the football away. So I think for the Eagles, let's get Saquon Barkley involved early. Like, let's not just fall in love with passing and we got to push the ball down the field and Hurts his back. Like, let him ease into the game, then start throwing some slants, start getting things going, and him cooking with Smitty and him with AJ Brown. And I think that's the success that I'm looking for here.
Yeah, no, Jair Alexander is massive for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the numbers don't necessarily bear it out that the Packers defense is a little worse without him, but inevitably you're going to be a little worse without one of the better corners in the NFL out there, especially when he's going up against AJ Brown. So AJ, he draws whoever the 2 is going to be in this game, or however Jeff Hafley wants to kind of divvy up these assignments. It's advantage Eagles, and you mentioned that run number. And Brad, when I was going through some of the stuff today, like sometimes, especially weeks like 12 through 16, this Packers offense just put people in negative game scripts, and all of a sudden you have to pass. And that's partly why this rush defense looks so good. If you remember back in week 1, Saquon was slipping all over the field, and it wasn't quite, the same. But this Philadelphia Eagles offensive line just kind of did what they wanted. They established themselves and were dominant in that football game, and they were dominant in the 16 that followed that. So that's kind of what you're leaning on here if you're an Eagles fan. Maybe Jalen Hurts is rusty. Maybe the passing game doesn't look like it should. Maybe there are boos raining down from the fans at the link at the end of the first quarter because they haven't scored yet. But like we've seen it over and over and over again this season, that the third quarter comes and the fourth quarter comes and the dam breaks. And I think that's something, if you're a Packers fan, you're a little bit worried about because for as much as we love some of the guys on Green Bay's defense, Brad, they're little. And so when you got like Mekhi Becton's playing guard here, Landon Dickerson's playing guard, these are big boys. And I think that's Philadelphia's kind of MO here is let's just, let's see if we can get Saquon 150 yards.
I think that should be the strategy. Like, dominate in the trenches. He took the game off in week 18. He didn't go after the record for the reason, right? Like, this is because of this game. Let's get past the Packers. Let's figure out who we're playing in the next round. And then we have one game, and then we're in the NFC Championship game. Like, that should be the mindset. Play physical, play strong. Don't need to mess around with things that you don't need to be messing around with. which is your quarterback coming off of a concussion. Like, he doesn't need to be prime Tom Brady out there throwing the rock 45 times. Like, I think they can win the game in this aspect. I laid out the EPA per play basis for the Packers. They've been susceptible to getting gas from the run. We've seen that, especially for some teams who are familiar with what they've done. Didn't quite work out that way in week 1. Now, Brazil had the soccer field and the grass was a little bit different than everybody was expecting. And, that's their first game of the season, the cleats and all that stuff that comes around with it. But in this scenario, at home with a rested offensive line, because let's not forget, the big boys up front didn't play in week 18 either. Like, they're ready to go. Those guys are banged up. And they're not going to be rusty, right? Offensive linemen, you just call the play, let's go beat somebody, and the Eagles can beat you physically. I think that's what happens here. That's the key to success for the Eagles, is dominating in the trenches, dominating on the ground. And if you get to that number for Saquon Barkley, 150, I have a hard time envisioning the Eagles not winning this football game.
Yeah, and last thing for me on this Packers defense, Adrian Cooper is a guy that you and I like a ton, and he's come on super strong. He's getting national recognition, so we don't necessarily need to dive into how good he is. But Quay Walker is supposed to be playing this weekend as well, so that adds a little extra boost to this Packers defense. And on the other side, you got 88 back for Philadelphia. You got Dallas Goedert, who looked like himself in Week 18. He was the only one really out there running around, of these guys that we're expecting to be difference makers in this football game. And if he looks like that and they can find a way to incorporate him into this game plan, then you can almost say, okay, well, if Quay Walker's coming downhill, we can get Edrin Cooper in a one-on-one with Dallas Goedert, or vice versa. Neither one of those guys are excellent pass coverage linebackers. So I think that is also advantage Eagles, and that's part of the reason that I'm so nervous, Brad, is because when I go through all 22 spots, I'm coming up with a lot of plus signs on Philly's side.
I'm with you there. We'll get to our prediction at the end, but that's kind of how I'm leaning towards Tyson. But let's flip the field. Let's look at the Packers offense and the Eagles defense. Jordan Love, now, I think he's gone the longest. He has the longest active streak without throwing an interception in the NFL.
Sacrilegious.
It's crazy. I mean, this is a guy who people are like, oh, he's just too aggressive. He's too Brett Favre. He needs to be more like Aaron Rodgers. And he dials it back a little bit. And Tyson, I got to say, this offense hasn't looked the same. I mean, here's the thing. Not everybody has it in them to be Aaron Rodgers, where you can still be aggressive and push the ball down the field and not make mistakes or throw it into adverse situations while still being able to make the play in the right play. For some guys, if you're going to make the play, you're going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to live with it. And they did that in the Green Bay for a long time with Brett Favre. And I know at some point it kind of drive you nuts, but man, both those guys can make some throws. I'm talking about Favre and Love, where you're like, holy smokes, how did that ball get there? How did that ball get through? Another time's like, what are you doing throwing that? If they're reining him in a little bit, Tyson, that to me is a hindrance or a governor on this offense I think the Eagles can take advantage of. This is a fast defense who rallies to the football. If Jordan Love is not going to push the ball down the field and take chances, he's going to check it down, throw underneath. Like, Tucker Kraft is a good player. He's not Brock Bowers. He's not Travis Kelce in his prime. He's not Gronk. Like, that's going to be rallied to and tackled. And there's not going to be a threat to push the ball down the field where the Eagles have been susceptible. So that's mainly what I'm looking for here. Are the Eagles going to be able to bait and get Jordan Love to check the ball down and that newfound non-aggressiveness? Or is Jordan Love going to flip the switch and he's going to be like, screw it, let's go be aggressive in the playoffs and start throwing the ball around?
Yeah, and that's, if you remember a year ago, they won a lot of games down the stretch and in the playoffs that way. And it looked like for a second, that they were going to play the Lions, and it was a crazy playoff run by Jordan Love. And that's what they need from Matt LaFleur in this offense is, like you said, you got to take the governor off. You and I are both golf guys. How many carts have we been in where we start tinkering with that thing because we want to go a little faster? And that's how Jordan Love feels. Exactly. And that's how Jordan Love feels right now. I'm sure he's itching to just be able to let this thing loose. And that's like, if you watch that Vikings game back, that's exactly what that offense looked like for the first 45 minutes of that football game. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, they're letting us, take the chances that we want to take. And all of a sudden Green Bay was able to make it a football game. But in the games that Green Bay's lost against good teams, because although the record says 11 wins or whatever it is, for Green Bay, they had a softer schedule than some of these other teams that are sitting here in the playoffs. And against good teams, they've struggled to do those things, as pushing the ball down the field. Without Christian Watson, that's a huge, huge loss for that offense. But, Brad, I'm terrified of Jaden Reed again because he ate up Philadelphia. He doesn't get the ball anymore, but I'm terrified of Dontavian Wicks finding or figuring out how to catch the football in this playoff game. I'm terrified of Romeo Doubs getting 10 catches for 120 yards. I understand that Quinyon Mitchell can erase one side side of the field, and Darius Slay still looks awesome. Cooper DeJean in the slot, all of those things. It just takes one off night, and this group had a bunch of guys last year that were able to step up and kind of like become playoff performers. They had a bunch of PTPers on the team, and they've been ready to get back to this spot too. It almost feels like everybody's just going, well, who's Philadelphia playing in round 2? And I'm sure that's getting into the Green Bay locker room.
For sure. That's a great point. And the offense is weird to break down because it feels like every single week it's a wide receiver by committee, right? Like the Patriots had the running back by committee, but I was kind of knew that the certain guys on the outside were going to get the rock. This is like whoever's freaking out there can catch 10 balls or catch 0. It's nuts. Like you said, Jaden Reed doesn't get the ball anymore. I like all of us. Have they been saving him? Like that feels like just such a college football thing, Like, oh no, we know we're going to win these games. We're going to save our guy and not show anything. It's like you can't really do that in the NFL. So I throw that like away or that thought process, but it stands to reason that he could be the guy who's the premier target on Saturday or on Sunday, excuse me. So that's where it's kind of hard to break down. Like, well, if you do Quinyon Mitchell versus Jaden Reed and this and that, well, we think the Eagles can potentially have an edge there. It's like, yeah, but we don't even know if he's the focal point. What if it's Dontavian Wicks going up one-on-one on the inside? What if Cooper DeJean has to guard so and so? Like, so it's hard to break down from that aspect, but. Tyson, I'll go back to this because I did it for the other side with the advanced stats. The Packers are 8th in EPA per play on offense. Like it's still been a very solid unit, and that's one of the reasons why I think this game is scarier than people are making it out to be because they have the ability to put up points, especially if Jordan Love's going to be moving it. 7th in EPA per pass. That's ahead of the Chargers, Chiefs, some of these other teams in the playoffs. Not at the top, but still very good. And then they're a top 10 run team. Josh Jacobs has been extremely efficient in being able to run the football for this Packers team. They're 9th in EPA per rush. Now, the Eagles defense, when we look at it from this perspective, they have the second best defense in the NFL when it comes to EPA per play. They've been really good at stopping the pass, 2nd in EPA per play on that, and then 4th in stopping the run. I mean, this is a unit that we were scared about for a long time, giving up the gash. Oh, my God, these linebackers are getting cooked. Well, Tyson, I got to say, this has been a really good run-stopping unit. They're going to need that against Jacobs because I really think LaFleur is going to try to establish the ball, run the football, kind of like the Eagles. I think it's going to be a mirrored side here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the number 8 a lot there, and it felt a little ominous because Josh Jacobs is the guy that you're focused on if you're the Philadelphia Eagles defense. We saw a much better tackling team this season throughout the regular season of the Philadelphia Eagles than we did last year. But all it takes is one. And if Josh Jacobs has a Josh Jacobs game, you could be in trouble. It doesn't matter if you're the Philadelphia Eagles or the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be tough when that guy has it rolling. That is the number one thing here is if you can put them behind the chains and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 6 instead of 3rd and 2, you've completely changed the way that Green Bay wants to attack you and the way they're going to be able to play this football game. That's the biggest thing to me. We've seen Jordan Davis have a interesting season that kind of culminated Brad and him playing pretty well down the stretch. And we've seen Thomas Booker and those guys kind of slide in. Those are going to be the ones because for as much as we love Jalen Carter, I don't think that Matt LaFleur is going to let Jalen Carter wreck the game. And so it's going to have to be the others, whether that's Josh Sweat or Nolan Smith, who's had he's emerged, it would be the word there down the stretch here for the Eagles. And is it illegal to say that maybe Bryce Huff can get to the quarterback in this matchup?
So that's something interesting, Tyson, because as you were saying that, I'm like, well, Jordan Love's going to have to be heated up a little bit. The Packers, their sack percentage is the 3rd best in the league. I mean, better or only worse per se, but Buffalo Bills or Broncos only have the better sack percentage rate from the offensive line. The Eagles, this thing used to be a game-wrecking front four, not so much anymore. They're 15th in the NFL when it comes to sack percentage. So that's going to be a battle. I agree with you. Like Bryce Huff, this is what you got paid for. Come and get after the passer. Josh Sweat feels like he's getting better later in the year, getting more explosive. And Nolan Smith has just gone from me saying he might be a bust to like, I love this guy. I want him on the Eagles forever. And so if you can get interior pressure as well, I think that'll be something that would be a huge boost. So I'm with you. If the Eagles are going to have to heat up Jordan Love, you got to make him make mistakes. And they're trying to make him be a little bit more conservative with the football from the outside looking in. And if that's the case, you'll take it. But I think if you can get a couple turnovers here and give it back to your offense, that's how you win this football game and go away pretty confidently.
Absolutely, and they've been dominating the turnover battle all season long, which you and I have been nervous about all season long because the regression to the mean is going to show up eventually, and we're just hoping it's not for it can show up in week 1 of next year. The Eagles can turn the ball over 15 times, but as long as it's not through the playoffs, that's fine because there are turnovers to be had. Quinyon Mitchell's still looking for that first one. Jordan Love seems like a good guy, to maybe oblige in that situation here. But and lastly, man, these linebackers just got to come downhill and do what they've been doing all season long. Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. Hopefully, Dean is all the way back to 100%, but these guys just have to play their game because they take away so much from an offense. Because if you've watched Green Bay, a lot of this underneath stuff that we're talking about has been Josh Jacobs 4 yards out of the backfield, right in the middle of the field, turning around, he gets the dump off. If Nakobe Dean 17 is sitting there waiting for him, or Zach Bond is sitting there waiting for him, then you can put the Packers behind the chains over and over again, and that's where they're susceptible because they want to take the shots on 2nd and 2. This is not the Philadelphia Eagles who are just like, well, we'll just run it. I don't care. This is a team where Jordan Love just says, hey, man, Christian Watson's down there somewhere. I'm throwing it up. And so that's going to be something to monitor.
Let's get into predictions. A lot of good stuff here, I think, from a breaking down perspective, why we think both teams can win. Yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe you're like, yeah, it sucked. I don't know. But Tyson, I want to hear your prediction. You were confident coming in. So you said you're getting nervous. You're going through the position battles, and you're leaning Eagles. So let's make it official. Who's going to win this football game?
Philly. I think the Eagles are going to win. I don't think the Eagles are going to roll because the Eagles don't roll, outside of a couple games this season. But I just think that they have more to lean on, like the Ravens win and the Steelers win and the Bengals win. And yeah, like the Bengals didn't make the playoff. They were fighting for their lives at that point. The Philadelphia Eagles have beaten a lot of really good teams this season. At times they needed to have it, and we know they need to have this one, brother.
Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this football game. They're going to advance. They're going to get one step closer to another championship game. I'm with you there, Tyson. So we think the Eagles are going to advance. Now, let's get to the fun part because I have not been fortuitous on this section with our bold predictions. Tyson's gotten a few of them. I think I hit the first one, and I was like, whoa, baby, I'm Nostradamus. And it has just completely fallen apart. So I'll throw it back to you. Give me a bold prediction for what happens in this wild card matchup against the Packers.
So the reason that your bold predictions stopped working is because Brad started betting on his bold predictions. And if you don't know anything about that, Brad is the #1 jinx guy in the entire world. So as long as he doesn't bet on whatever he's about to say, it's go ahead and lock it in. The rest of you guys can. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to turn the football over. How's that for bold? That feels pretty bold to me. I was going to say, well, what if Saquon Barkley runs for 150 yards? It doesn't feel too bold anymore, man. He averaged 120 yards a game. That's a cop-out because 200 that seems unattainable. But, I don't think Jalen Hurts turns the football over here, and I think the Philadelphia Eagles, are all of a sudden they're leading the talk shows here instead of what's Mike McCarthy going to do?
That's okay. So no turnovers for the Eagles on offense. I like that, Tyson. No special teams either, because that unit just started falling apart recently. So no turnovers for the Eagles. That's Tyson.
Are you worried about Jake in the playoffs?
No.
Me either.
We need a good variance coming back. I was glad he missed that field goal. Everybody was nervous. I'm like, get the good variance on the field goal coming back. Come on. Tyson, my bold prediction, I'm with you. I was going to say 2 touchdowns from Saquon Barkley, but I'm like, that doesn't feel that bold. Like, that feels definitely obtainable, I think, especially with this game plan. Like, that would be crazy in the playoffs. But we just saw freaking Jahmyr Gibbs score 4 in Week 18 in what was essentially a playoff game. So I'm like, well, I got to scrap that. I mean, that's not that bold for this guy. So I'm going to go back to old reliable. And I think he laid it out, and it honestly clicked in my head. Quinyon Mitchell is going to pick off Jordan Love. They're going to try to force it in the Jalen Reed. And then he's going to get his first, whether it's like a tip or something, or he just picks one off. He is going to intercept his first pass in this game in the wild card round, helping the Eagles get to the next round and secure victory.
No house call?
No, I'm not going to go that bold because then that would just be that. I just need to see the ball go through the hoop. So I'm picking an interception, right, which is super rare, of course.
Brad's a shoot from half court kind of guy.
Exactly. I'm Steph Curry, but I don't make it. So that's going to do it for here at Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. Again, I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. Thank you guys for joining us during the regular season. But that's over. That's done. This is win or go home. There is no tomorrow. We have you covered for as long as the Eagles are in the playoffs here at Eagles Uncovered. So hopefully we'll talk to you guys next week, breaking down the next matchup. But if not, we'll talk to you anyway about what just occurred on Sunday. Enjoy the game, guys. We'll talk to you.